the world of business and finance, there is a vast landscape of buzzwords, whether it be growth or profitability, or even the phrase create value. But there is perhaps no bigger and more notorious buzzword than the word networking. This 10-letter word wields a ridiculous amount of power to strike both dread and fear in the hearts of current students, fresh grads, and experienced professionals alike. The prospect of speaking with a complete stranger is enough to make most people uncomfortable. But sprinkle in the fact that this person is working at a company that you desperately want to land an offer at, and that a single conversation can be the difference between a referral or a bad impression on a potential interviewer, and you begin to see why networking makes people so uncomfortable. My name's Matt Huang, and I'm a current strategy consultant at BCG and a former investment banking analyst based out of New York. I make these videos because I like to, but also because I want to make extremely valuable content that helps you guys out. If you like the video, hit the like button or hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, so you don't miss any of my future uploads. So for anyone who's interested in getting a job in business, it's very likely that at some point you've heard the term networking, and somebody has told you, whether it's your career center or your parents or your professors, that you need to be building your network in order to get a good job, and you need to be connecting with professionals in order to learn about the industry. I certainly was told this many times as a student, and so I networked extensively when I was recruiting for investment banking roles in college, and it wasn't because I liked it or enjoyed it, but because I had to do it, or at least people told me that I had to do it, and so I went through the motions and made it happen. Now, years later, I do not regret making those phone calls, sending out those cold emails, and having those conversations, but I recognize that I made a lot of mistakes along the way. And so today, I want to tell you about everything that I know about networking so that you don't have to make these same mistakes. Let's get into it. All right, so before we get into best practices, I want to make sure that you guys really understand the life cycle of a networking relationship. So I want you to imagine that networking is like a funnel with various stages. And as you progress from the top to the bottom of the funnel, the number of people is just naturally going to decrease. This is similar to in sales, if you guys are familiar with a sales funnel, which basically just means that, the number of people that you reach out to, that number is not going to ultimately end up buying the product. The number of people that end up buying the product is ultimately going to be a much smaller amount, but that is totally okay and totally normal. And so the same principle applies to networking, because naturally there's going to be a lot of people that you'll find in your networking journey will not respond to you or will not continue speaking with you over time, and that is totally okay. You really just want to find a core set of individuals that really care about you and want to give you advice, guidance as you progress on your career journey. So there's 4 stages, and they are: first, the initial contact; second, the first conversation; third, the ongoing relationship; and fourth, the mentorship relationship. So let's dive into all 4. So with the initial contact phase, this is where you are first reaching out to these people that you want to speak with. And that requires a few things. First of all, it requires you to have an idea of what you're interested in, and 2, come up with a list of companies or a list of people that work at these companies that you want to speak with. And that's going to require, understanding what job function these people work in and how you're going to reach them. And then you have to decide, who from this group of people at these companies am I going to reach out to specifically, and how am I going to reach out to them? Like, am I going to ping them on LinkedIn? Am I going to reach out to them on email? Am I going to reach out to them in person at a networking event? Or am I going to ask my buddy whose dad works at the same company as these people to put me in touch with them? How are you going to get in touch with them? And from my experience, what works best here is you want to source connections from LinkedIn. And so just look up people on LinkedIn that work at these companies that you want to work at, and then don't reach out to them on LinkedIn, but find their email online and reach out to them on email. And this is critical, okay? Because many people do not check their LinkedIn, but everybody checks their email, whether or not they like it or not. And so it's impossible for somebody to not see your initial outreach to their work email. And in these emails, you want to be saying something along the lines of, hey, my name is Matt. By way of introduction, I'm currently a student at Georgetown University. I'm studying finance, and I'm really interested in investment banking, for example. And saw that you work at Goldman Sachs and know that you're super busy, but would love to learn more about your experience. And attach your resume so that they can at least look at it and see, your background and what school you went to, what your experience is, and just leave it at that, okay? And one other thing is that if they don't respond, it's okay. Follow up again after a few days or after a week. And this is critical because these people, especially if you're going for investment banking and management consulting roles, super busy. For example, when I was in banking and now I work in consulting, I get hundreds of emails every day. And so it's very easy for one single email from a student to get lost in the email traffic. And so don't despair if somebody doesn't respond to you the first time. Just follow up with them a few times and hopefully you can get a response there. And so with the second stage now, which is having the initial conversation. Now, this is after you have reached out to them, they have gotten back to you, and you guys have picked a time and a place to have an initial conversation. And it's either going to be in person or it's going to be over the phone. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be over the phone because they're super busy. And if you're a student, you're probably stuck on campus. So tips for success here are going to be, you want to go in prepared with both your story and you want to have a list of questions. Genuine questions, okay, that demonstrate that you've at least looked at the firm website and you've done your research on this company. So you're not asking the basic stuff that somebody could just find if they went online and Googled the company. And now this is critical because you want to demonstrate genuine interest in this person's role. And when you do that, that is flattering to them. And so they're going to feel good about it. And they're going to be like, hey, wow, I'm impressed by this kid who, he knows a lot already about my company and he's so genuinely interested in, like, I want to help him, or I have a good impression of him. And I know some of you might be like, oh, but like, that sounds manipulative. Like, I don't want to pretend that I'm genuinely interested in their company if I'm not. And what I'll say to that is, well, if you're not genuinely interested in their company, then why did you reach out to them in the first place? You should only be reaching out to people that you're actually interested in learning something from. Otherwise, it's going to come across very clearly that you're not that interested. The other thing to remember here is that these conversations are a mutual exchange of value, okay? So it's not just them giving to you, but you are also giving something to them. And this is critical because many students will tell me, Matt, like, I feel like I don't have anything to offer to this person that works in this company that I want to work at. Like, why would they want to talk with me? Well, if that were the case, then why would I be making these videos for you guys? And why would anyone respond to you in the first place? It's because, for example, when I speak with someone over the phone, I feel good inside because I feel like I've helped somebody. Don't underestimate the value of those good feelings. People will feel good about talking with a student and giving advice and perspective to the student. So even though objectively you might think, hey, like, I don't have any money, I don't have any experience, I don't have much to offer, you are bringing something to the table. And that's important to remember so that you recognize that this is not just a one-sided conversation, it's a mutual exchange of value. And so when you see it as that, it becomes less nerve-wracking. So moving to the third stage, which is maintaining the relationship, this is where a lot of people fall off in my experience because many students will get super motivated, they will do a ton of calls, reach out to a bunch of people, and then they'll say, okay, I'm done. But no, that's where the work begins because you have to maintain the relationship, right? There's no point in having an initial networking call if you're not going to maintain the relationship. This can honestly be as simple as just reaching out to them every couple months with an interesting article in the news that you read, or perhaps telling them about your, latest internship experience, or just giving them an update and saying something like, hey, I just wrapped up classes for the semester and I'm really looking forward to starting my internship in the city next month. And this is critical because there will come a time when you finally do need to ask them for a favor, whether that is a referral for an interview or putting you in touch with another one of their coworkers. So you always want to try and maintain these relationships with people that you've spoken with and not let them fall off the edge. And this leads us to the final stage, which is mentorship. Now, I want to be extremely clear and caveat that a very, very small number of people will ever make it to this stage for you because just naturally, not that many people in the world are going to want to invest hours into the career development of a single student, right? But again, our goal in networking is not quantity, it's quality, okay? We want to find a select number of people that are super interested in our personal development and care about us and want to provide their perspective and advice to us. And the people that become your mentors are going to be people that are often 5 to 10 years out. And so they've got a very different perspective. They've gone through a lot more than you have, and so they can provide a lot of value to you as a result. So I want to wrap up by talking about mindset with networking. And I think this is super important because a lot of people set themselves up for disappointment or failure when networking because they go into it too early with a transactional mindset, which means that they want something out of the other person before they've even developed the relationship. And that is totally the wrong way to go about it because you're just setting yourself up to be disappointed when the call doesn't end with you getting a referral to an interview or the call doesn't end on a good note, for example. And there are going to be many calls that don't go well, just as many that go well. And that's just the nature of the game. You can't have 100% good calls, and that's okay. Because even if a call doesn't go well, you still learn something from it. You learn a lot from a call, whether or not it goes well or not. And networking calls are a low stakes opportunity, relatively, to practice your story so that when it comes time to actually interview, you've already practiced speaking with professionals so many times that it comes across as very smooth and well rehearsed. You also need to think about networking as just a regular course of diligence when exploring fields that you're interested in, because think about it. If you were to buy a new phone, for example, you wouldn't just go into a random store and pick up the first phone that you see off the shelf, right? You would do your diligence. You would look up reviews online, you would watch reviews on YouTube, you would even talk to people in person in your daily life who have the phone and ask them, hey, is this phone worth the money? In the same way, you should do this with your job. And that's what the networking calls serve as, is a way for you to get firsthand primary data on the companies that you're interested in. So just have an abundance mindset and understand that not every call is going to go well, but if you grasp the fact that every call is a learning opportunity, then you're setting yourself up up for success. So that's it for this video, guys, and I hope you found it helpful. And if you liked it, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and leave any comments for suggestions of future content that you want me to put out next. Also, if you want to learn more about my experience in consulting or investment banking, you might want to check out one of my earlier videos on investment banking versus consulting, or why investment banking is not as glamorous as it seems.